Hey, I'm Matt Morris, and this is my discussion on Samba. This is for ISA 4220, and we're going to move into the technical discussion for Samba. What Samba is just another technology in the world today for collaboration in a business. What it actually does is it allows for the application of server message block protocol, which is used by Windows, Linux, and Mac, and many other different computer platforms, but it allows them to interact with Windows computers on the same network, which is helpful so that a Mac user is able to contact a Windows computer or a Linux computer is able to contact the Windows computer. Samba is open sourced, so it's free, and it also will do a lot more, but this is just a general outline of the definition. SMB was originally developed for Windows, so if Samba wasn't present, computer platforms like Linux or Mac would not be able to communicate with the Windows machines. So this makes Samba pretty useful. Samba has two different programs. These programs are SMBD and NMBD, and what they do is it applies the CIFS services of file print services, authentication and authorization, name resolution, and browsing. The file and print services are actually controlled by the SMBD daemon, and the SMBD will also control the user modes for their authentication, which is why they're actually useful for Samba. There's a way to protect the file and printing services with authorizations. The mode that's more secure is the user mode, where the system administrator is actually able to go in and grant or deny access to different users. Windows also has a system that goes into more depth with authentication for CIFS services. It's actually, the system's called the NT domain, and that is the process that handles the domain controller. The NT domain is actually just the network of machines that use the domain controller. The other program is the NMBD, which is actually in charge of the name resolution and browsing services of the CIFS. And the two services work together to manage the list of NetBIOS names. The name resolution is in charge of finding the services with the user, which a user or client is looking for, and is able to either broadcast or use the point-to-point method. Broadcast can cause a lot of traffic, so it's basically not advised to use. And the last part would be the browsing feature, which Samba uses the NMBD program to look at and access a file or print shares on the computer or in the network. And then the last bullet is a couple of just the utilities that Samba comes with. One is the SMB client, which is used to connect remotely from a Unix system to the SMB file share, and it also allows for the ability to send files to a distance printer. Another one would be the NMBD lookup or NMB lookup command. It's useful when trying to find NetBIOS names and matching it with the correct IP address. And then the final tool is the Samba Web Administration tool, which allows for configuration of Samba using a web browser. And they're all very common tools that are used a lot when a client is using Samba. And now we're going to move into the best practices. The first best practice is when managing an account on the LDAP server. It's smart to use the IdealX scripts because they are the best known configuration for LDAP. The scripts are used instead of having to create your own and go through the long process of doing so, or possibly making mistakes. The next best practice would be, before Samba is actually even able to be used, there has to be enough Windows domain user accounts or group accounts in the LDAP database. This makes it so you are actually able to run Samba effectively. and that leads into the next one, which is creating a Samba group network. And this makes it so that you can have the collaboration of the computers very easily, and you can just add a computer to the network, and it flows a lot easier. The next best practice would be to make sure you have efficient security controls. The reason this is a best practice is because the LDAP implementation only uses the barest of security measures, so you're going to want effective security controls so that your system is secure. And then the last one would be the assignment of rights and privileges. A normal administrator account is the account that can add accounts, but there is a possibility to give the privileges to a particular account, so you can actually give them the ability to add another account and grant privileges to another one after that. And then this can be very useful so that you don't have to always check it. But if that's not used correctly, it could cause problems for a company. Now we're going to move into the implementation or how-to of the actual service hardening for Samba. The first one would be the IdealX SMD LDAP tool configuration scripts. These are very useful, and the way to do this is you can go to the website, install it, and you can use the script so that you don't make a mistake while creating your own scripts. And once installed and the directory is located correctly, you can then worry about configuring the script so that you can use it. What you actually have to do is create the /opt /idealx /sbin directory using the mkdir command, and then you're going to have to set permissions with it using the chown and the chmod commands. After that's been done, you can go into the configuration tools, and they'll need the NetBIOS name of the Samba server and the SMB config file. And to do this, you'll just have to use the cd command and configure command. And once that's all done, it'll send you through a bunch of steps, and from there you can decide to enable the SMD LDAP tool configuration scripts. Since Samba needs a well-populated group and user accounts to actually work, we're going to want to add accounts so that it's able to run. In order to add the accounts to the LDAP backend, you'll need to have a user account in every /etc/password on every server. If not, you'll have to add a POSIX account for them in the LDAP. The PD bedit utility can be used and to add Windows domain accounts to the user accounts to the LDAP, and it can be used in the command line so that it adds the Samba SAM accounts for the user, and you'll also have to add the POSIX account for the user. Once that's been done, you'll probably have enough accounts for the network. The next hardening technique is creating the Samba group network so that Samba will work for all the accounts of the network. To actually do this, you have to use the group add SMB users in the SMB directory. After that's done, you have to use you'll type the change ownership command, which is actually the chown, and after that you'll modify the users with the user mod command. And from there, now that we've done that, we have added the SMB users to the group. You change the ownership of the demo and added a user to the SMB user group. You can keep adding depending on how many users you require and how many Samba will actually need in order to work correctly. The last implementation is actually implementing the effective security measures. To implement more security controls, you'll have to there's a couple different tools you can download from different websites who offer the tools for this. Managing your users effectively can help with security, and this is actually done with the LDAP account manager, and you can also use the Webmin IDLX CGI tool. And using these tools will just help you manage your users effectively with implemented security. And some of the browsers that Samba user reports are generated from are the GQ, the LDAP browser or LDAP editor, or the JX Explorer. And those are just what Samba generates for user reports, and it shows everything what's going on with the users so you can audit them. And these are just some tools used to manage accounts or see the user reports that Samba generates. And that was the last implementation. That was my presentation. These are my references, and I hope y'all enjoyed. Thank you for listening.